Hey everyone, my name's John Anderson. I'm 70 years old from Lincoln, Nebraska. I'm not here to sing or dance or anything like that. I'm here to tell you my story. A story about war, loss, hitting rock bottom, and somehow finding a way back to the light. I don't know if it's good enough to move you, but I hope it might give someone out there a little bit of hope, the way it did for me. Back in the day, over 50 years ago, I was a combat medic in Vietnam. I was 25, young, full of fire, but war snuffs that out faster than you can blink. I'll never forget one afternoon in the jungle, hot, sticky, the kind of air that clings to you. All hell broke loose when we got ambushed, bullets flying, bombs shaking the ground. I was patching up a guy when I heard someone yelling for help. It was Tim, this kid, barely 18, blonde hair, blue eyes, looked like he'd just stepped out of high school. He was lying there, blood pouring from his chest. "Tim, hang on, buddy. You're gonna be okay," I told him, trying to keep my voice steady, but I knew it was bad. He grabbed my hand, weak as anything, and whispered, "Tell my mom I was brave. Her name's Linda, from Kansas City." I did everything I could, bandaged him up, pressed down hard to stop the bleeding, but he slipped away right there in my arms. Tim died holding on to me, and I never got the chance to find his mom and tell her what he said. Those eyes of his, that last look he gave me, it's burned into me forever. War is not just the guns and the bombs. It's the faces, the stories, the lives cut short. I saw thousands die, families torn apart, kids losing their parents, moms sobbing over their sons' bodies. I felt for them deep in my bones because I knew what it was to lose someone. Every time I saved a guy, I felt like I mattered. But every time I couldn't, I felt like a failure. I saw too much evil, too much misery, and sometimes I wondered why we humans do this to each other. When the war ended, I came home, but I wasn't the same John anymore. My dreams were full of screams and blood. I'd wake up shaking, seeing Tim's face or the others I couldn't save. Sleep became my enemy. But I had my mom, Mary. She was my rock, the only family I had left. She'd say to me, "John, you should open a flower shop. Flowers heal people. They bring joy." It was her dream, and I figured I'd make it come true. So, with the little money I'd scraped together from my army pay, I opened a tiny shop in Lincoln called Mary's Blossoms. I loved the smell of roses and carnations, loved seeing people light up when they got a bouquet. Mom worked with me, and for the first time since the war, I felt some peace. I thought maybe I'd found a way to keep going, to soothe the scars in my soul. But life doesn't let you off that easy. One day, Mom started coughing, deep, nagging coughs that wouldn't quit. I took her to the doctor, and they hit us with the news. Lung cancer, stage 4. I couldn't believe it. This strong woman who'd carried me through my darkest days was slipping away. I threw everything I had into saving her. Sold the flower shop, sold our little house, anything to pay the hospital bills. I'd sit by her bed, holding her hand, begging her not to leave me. But 6 months later, she was gone. I can still see her last moment. She looked at me, gave me this weak smile, and said, "John, you're my pride." Then her eyes closed. Losing Mom broke me. I had nothing left. No home, no shop, no reason to keep breathing. I ended up homeless, wandering the streets, eating scraps people tossed my way. I hated life, hated myself. Why couldn't I have done more for her? Why couldn't I save Tim or her or anyone I cared about? I felt like a nobody, a guy who'd let down everyone who ever mattered. Nights were the worst. I'd sit there in the rain, freezing, staring at the sky, thinking about giving up. I didn't care anymore. The fight in me was gone. I'd survived a war, but I couldn't survive myself. I'd drift around, no direction, just waiting for it all to end. Then, one cold, rainy day in March 2025, something shifted. I don't know what pulled me there, but I stumbled into this little church. There was a sign out front, "Everyone's welcome." I was shivering, starving, just looking for a place to warm up, but I stayed for the sermon. The preacher talked about God's love, how He's there for the broken, the lost. It hit me hard, like a crack in the wall I'd built around my heart. I remembered being a kid when Mom would take me to church, when I still believed life had a point. After the service, the preacher came over to me. He didn't care that I looked like a mess or smelled like cheap booze. He just asked, "Son, what's your story?" I spilled it all: war, Tim, Mom, the streets. He listened, no judgment, then said, "God hasn't given up on you. Want to stay here?" The church had a little shelter, and I said yes. That place became my lifeline. I met people like me, folks who'd lost their homes, their families, their hope. We stuck together, held each other up. One day, this young woman, Sarah, showed up with her kid, Mikey. He was sick as a dog, coughing and burning up with fever. I remembered my medic days and stepped in, gave him some medicine, cooled his forehead with a wet cloth. Mikey looked up at me with these big, clear eyes and said, "You're like my grandpa. He used to take care of me when I was sick." That hit me like a ton of bricks. I thought of Mom, how she'd nursed me through fevers, and I broke down right there. That night, I knelt by my cot in the shelter and prayed for the first time in years. I said, "God, I've seen too much pain, war, my life, the people around me. If I can do anything, let me carry their hurt. I'm not praying for me. I'm praying for everyone else. Let them have warmth, happiness, even if I've got to take the weight." Right then, I felt this warmth flood my chest, like a soft light wrapping around me. I knew God was real. He'd been there all along, giving me a second chance. From that moment, I turned things around. I stopped living for myself. I started volunteering at the shelter, cooking meals, cleaning up, listening to people's stories. I'd tell them about my life, how I'd lost everything but found a reason to keep going. I wanted them to know that no matter how far you fall, there's always a hand reaching down to pull you up. Every night, I pray, not for me, for the people out there hurting, for the ones with no roof over their heads like I was, for the moms who lost sons like Tim's mom, for the folks fighting sickness like my mom did. I'd take all their pain if I could, carry it on my shoulders so they could live free and happy. I believe God hears me, and He's guiding me every step. Standing here on this stage, I'm not chasing fame or cash. I just want to share my story, to tell you that no matter how tough life gets, there's hope. I was a broken man once, but now I live for others. I can't change the past, can't bring Tim back, can't hold Mom again, but I can make a difference today. And that's what I'm doing, one day at a time. Thanks for listening. I hope my story lights a spark for someone who needs it. And if Linda from Kansas City, Tim's mom, is out there somewhere, I want her to know, your boy was brave. He fought till the end, and I'm so sorry I couldn't tell you sooner.
I was young, just 25, thrown into the fire. Jungle nights and battle cries, blood on every wire. Tim was just a kid, 18, with eyes so bright and blue. Held his hand as life slipped free, couldn't see it through. He said, "Tell my mom I fought with pride," then faded in my arms. A promise lost, a wound inside, beneath the war's cruel charms. Shadows of the brave, they haunt me every night. Faces in the flames, I couldn't hold them tight. Through the pain and the rain, I carried all their cries. Lost my way, but found a flame in the Savior's eyes. Came back home a broken man, dreams of death and guns. Mom said flowers heal my son, so we built one. Mary's blossoms bloom so sweet, a refuge from the fight. But cancer stole her from my reach, left me in the night. Sold it all, house and store, to keep her here with me. Still she slipped beyond the door, left me lost at sea. Shadows of the brave, they haunt me every night. Faces in the flames, I couldn't hold them tight. Through the pain and the rain, I carried all their cries. Lost my way, but found a flame in the Savior's eyes. Streets became my bed of stone, cold and all alone. Blamed myself for what I'd known, a heart turned to bone. Rain would fall, I'd sit and stare, no will to see the dawn. Thought my story ended there, a soul too far gone. Then a church with open arms, a sign that called me in. Heard a voice through all the storms, where hope could begin. Shadows of the brave, they haunt me every night. Faces in the flames, I couldn't hold them tight.